What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday. I'm feeling great. Thank you for asking. Cheers. So let's talk about you guys. You guys good? Making sure you guys are good. Good, safe, healthy, please be. Today we're going to talk about Warbotron, the trifecta that is Warbotron. For those that don't know, Warbotron, Generation Toy, and TransFormMission, all the same. They have made history in the past. They have some of the most impressive reveals of all time. They've earned their spot on the past, present, and future conversation, and I'm excited to get to it because there's a fair amount I want to say, and I kind of want to reminisce about some of their releases as well. So I'm anxious to talk about it. In order to do so, we got to do a little bit of house cleaning. The Toy World Optimus Prime. You guys are way rougher about that in the comments than I feel about it. I'll tell you, it's not a bad product. There is a conversation to be had regarding that and the Zeta Toys Bumblebee and some of that stuff that we talked about a bit on Patreon, but there is a conversation that's bigger there that I might want to have here. While we're on the topic, the Patreon video went up. I appreciate the new folks that signed up. I appreciate anybody that watched it and just gave it a watch and figure out what's going on over there. It is appreciated. The Anakin versus Anakin video, I had some people say that we should weight the money and costs. I just can't do that. A point is a point, so Hasbro's always going to get the point, but I can't, give them double points for being, a fourth of the price or whatever the case may be. I don't know a way to equate that. Like price and value gets very subjective, so I don't think it's the right call there. I get where you're coming from. I just don't think it's the right call. The Master-Made Gen Hero. There was a lot of people that seem to be like, oh man, the alt mode is not good. Like, yeah, I agree. But do you think the alt mode is good on any of those Power Master Primes? Like, I don't. I feel like if you like that, this is as good as any of them. If you don't like that, then I'm with you. But I'm not shocked that it's not good looking to me, I guess. But very cool figure. That's a company that makes a very solid product. It's not for everybody, myself included, but it's if it is for you, you're one of the luckiest collectors on the earth because they make a rock solid product. And then lastly, the Brawny versus Hunk. I'm with you guys. My Hunk is in there too, so to speak. That's the thing about the point system, right? It's weighted in terms of what's important to you. So theoretically, a figure could lose 1/9 or whatever, but that one is the most important thing. So therefore, you get it. It kind of calls back to that Anakin versus Anakin one where Hasbro won some pretty impressive categories. As a result, I could see how somebody would be like, you know what, I'm going to get this over the SHF just because even though they lost 3/6, I believe, I can see why I'm going to get this because those 3 are more important to me than the 6 that SHF earned. So it's the cool thing about it. There's one last thing I need to talk about. The MMC DJD members that are coming. I think it's Helix that's coming now. And then the Blast Off from their Combaticon set. I'm reviewing both. I have both pre-ordered. I'm not holding the reviews for hostage. I promise as soon as I get it in, I'll get it out. I'm that guy. I'm going to have a quick turnaround. And then you'll kill me for it in the comments. But I am going to have a quick turnaround. I'm definitely not holding it for ransom. I'm just waiting for it to come in stock with my online retailer of choice regarding this brand. And with that, we can get into today's discussion, the past, present, and future of Warbotron, TransFormMission, Generation Toy, whatever you want to call them. But in order to get there, we have to go back in time and start at the beginning. So Warbotron came out of the gate swinging, and that's what a lot of people don't understand that weren't into this back then. This had never been done before. You usually got silhouettes, and then you got some more teases, accessories sometimes, then you got prototypes, then you got to see combine mode, then you got to see the whole team, then it was always this stepping stone process to getting this stuff out in regards to the rollout. Warbotron said, nah, we're going to just show you it all right now, and released physical 3D prototype images of their entire Combaticon set. Another thing to keep in mind at this time is that combiners didn't really have a whole lot of competition. It wasn't like today where 4 or 5 companies are making the exact same thing. You pretty much had Make Toys and Fans Project doing one scale and TFC doing another. Warbotron, scale-wise, fit into the latter, but aesthetic-wise definitely had their own sauce. It was a stylized, sort of modern take on these characters, and it was some of the best-looking third-party stuff for its time. And still to this day, I think looks pretty cool, objectively. But they did come out of the gate also shrouded in a bit of controversy. There was limited exclusivity to the Warbotron set to BBTS. Eventually, the floodgates opened and other companies were allowed to sell it, but I think it was a 90-day exclusive contract with BBTS. This upset a lot of people because they couldn't use their retailer of choice. I'm sure it upset the retailer competition, but it was another thing about this company that stood out as something different. And Warbotron came out, and for the most part, the 5 figures over over a span of time that was reasonable, produced a pretty solid combiner, especially for its time, and in comparison to its competition, which was really only TFC. It was certainly more solid than any TFC release as a combiner. So pretty much a success and set a standard and precedent as to what to expect. It also came with a Legends class, for lack of a better term, shockwave that transformed into a gun that the Bruticus could hold. So just another cool little thing. And it wasn't too long after that boom, they hit you right back again with a Computron set. All 5 prototypes, alt modes, combined modes. You get to see the whole shebang in one clip. They start to release. QC wasn't as strong as the Bruticus set, but was still a pretty solid effort. At this time, they were going toe-to-toe with MiG toys. Because of the scale differences, I think both were able to be successful. Now, at this point, you can kind of think of them having released 10 figures as pretty much setting a reputation in stone. They have a particular type of plastic they use. If you've handled any of them, you're familiar with what it is. A lot of their transformations have some clearance issues. They're prone to stress marks, probably due to the plastic choice, but their sculpts are always cool, clean, and have character. They use paint pretty much appropriately and create a pretty solid combiner. Now, around this time on their socials and such, you started to realize that they weren't crazy about the name Warbotron, and it became confusing because no one was really sure if they meant to call Bruticus Warbotron, which seems to make sense, and we just never learned the company name, or if Warbotron was the company name. Either way, what was clear was that they didn't market or brand themselves as well as they could have. And maybe that's why we never saw another Warbotron product. What we saw in its stead was Generation Toy, who came out with a Devastator set, sticking to the same sort of style motif, where it's definitely stylized, definitely an interpretation, and they were going toe-to-toe with Toy World at the time, which, as we've already discussed in previous videos, that Devastator changed the game forever. But this set, much like their previous two, was extremely solid, extremely intimidating, very cool looking, just not necessarily G1. And it wasn't long after that we started getting singular releases, which we never expected to see from this company. Jazz, which was more of an IDW represented, masterpiece scaled Jazz. Still, in my opinion, one of their best releases to date. Tyrant, which was a Megatron. They released some clear versions of stuff, and they also did an IDW Prime, which came out around the same time as the G Creations and offered a different aesthetic. It was a really cool time because depending on what artist was working on Prime in the comics, you could kind of pick your poison. I went with the sleeker look, preferring the Milne artwork over some of the other options, but their Prime was a terrific figure. They also did a counterpart for your Prime, an IDW-styled Megatron that turned into a stealth bomber that was also a pretty solid release. Not as solid as their Prime, but a solid release. Now, around this time, we get to see them take on a third company name, which is TransFormMission, which really only released the Menasor. 5 bots, 1 combiner, then a box set, and now recently announced a metallic version. An IDW offering of the Stunticons, which I still adore, even though the combined mode is possibly their only failure, in my opinion. And when I say that, I mean for combiners. It was the only combiner that they've ever made that just wasn't as rock solid, steady, and stable as their previous. But a really cool set and a really cool look and a very accurate look to the IDW representations. But it seems like the Stunticons are going to be the only thing that TransFormMission dibbled and dabbled in because they seem to take right on back to their Generation Toy roots with every other release and offering. But it became obvious that all 3 of these companies were connected mainly because of the materials and aesthetic cues, but also because of the packaging. They have some of the best packaging to date ever in third-party history. All of their packaging came with an embossed logo in a nice box with a slip cover on top, and inside was filled with foam carved out perfectly for the figure to rest in. Without a doubt, my favorite Transformer packaging of all time. It felt like you were buying a pair of Fendi shoes or something. Just gave you a bit of reward for paying a premium price for a masterpiece scale figure. And I say premium for the time, which was the upper scale around $100 a pop for most of their releases. But Generation Toy did continue to pump out product. We got their Gorilla, which was their take on Optimus Primal, which is still my favorite masterpiece scaled Optimus Primal released, mainly because I like the aesthetic cues. Once again, stylized, once again, sort of following their suit of how they do business, carving out a brand that's instantly recognizable as their flavor. And they also did a Red Bull, which was a side swipe in this line as well. Now, of course, with all of that, you get repaints and redecos, and every now and then they would do a Legends thing here and there, but for the most part, that's the main release schedule of what this company has done, with one exception, which is their Defensor, their latest line of combiners, which has been taking part now for years. I've reviewed their blades and their sergeant, maybe even their groove, I can't even recall now. And I don't think they've released their hotspot and possibly not even their first aid yet, but I'm not sure about that. What I am sure about is they haven't released this combiner El Total, and it's been going on for a very long time, which makes the present and future of this company something to be concerned about. So what's the current state of this company? I don't know. We have seen some recent reveals like the side swipe and stuff. I don't mean reveals, but I mean releases. The defense store seems like it's taking longer than it should, longer than their previous ones have allowed or allotted for, which I do find concerning. I can't find any evidence of them really reaching out to the fan base with any credible kind of updated information. However, I will say this about their future. It's tough to make a call as to what a company should do. I'm going to give you two perfect examples. The two companies that have really been in this the longest, with the most kind of consistent fan base and dedication and results and consistency of quality and product and release, etc., is Fans Toys and Mastermind Creation. Those are the two. A couple years ago, we would have put Make Toys in that conversation. We can't any longer. Those are the two companies. And both are winning for entirely different reasons, which is what makes it hard to have the conversation about this company. Let me explain. Fans Toys has had has had a way of doing business that's just, we are doing G1. Boom. G1 masterpiece reveals, releases. That's what we're doing. We're not deviating. We're not playing any games. We're producing this specific type of product, period. Mastermind Creations, on the other hand, is like, well, we're going to do some IDW stuff that's almost straight out of the page. We're going to do some IDW inspired type stuff. We're going to do those in the chug scale. Then we're going to do some MP stuff that's mostly Studio Ox inspired, but not totally Studio Ox inspired. We're going to have some leeway there. We're going to kind of just have them in the same pocket. Then we're going to do these tapes, which aren't really Masterpiece scaled or chug scaled, but they'll work well enough with your Masterpiece collection, and they're real 1/1 scale for the actual cassette. Like, everybody's doing 1,000 different things on this side, everybody's doing the exact same thing consistently on this side, and they're both winning. So why are they winning? And it's the product. It's the quality of the product and belief and reputation in the brand. That's why I go to Generation Toy, Warbotron, whatever you want to call them. They've been all over the place too. IDW Masterpiece scaled stuff. Masterpiece scaled combiners. This Beast Wars thing that's based off the artist rendition. Legend scale stuff. They're all over the place. So, okay, we remove Fans Toys from the blueprint of this conversation. We bring in MMC to the blueprint of this conversation. What's different? And it's the consistency and quality and brand, in my opinion. Mastermind Creations has always been Mastermind Creations, and that penguin skiing has been that penguin skiing, and that's the beginning and end of it. Yes, there's reformatted. Yes, there's Studio Ox. Yes, there's the cassette ones, whatever they're called, but it's all pretty much known that it's under the Mastermind Creations brand. Many people didn't know that Generation Toy and Warbotron were the same to begin with, even though they had the pictures of them next to each other initially, and the same for TransFormMission. There's also not the same level of quality consistent amongst all pieces. So everything has pretty much improved regarding their combiners, from Bruticus to Computron, Computron to Devastator, Devastator to Minosaur, we take a step down. Minosaur to Defensor, who knows, but some of the bots have taken a step down. Meanwhile, the individual releases have been pretty much great. The Primal, the Prime, the Megatron, and the Jazz all jump to mind as being really solid releases. The Legends, not so much, especially by today's standard. And then you get into the onslaught of repaints. There's 100 different devies that they've done, much like everybody does. They've got clear versions, they've got green clear versions, they've done it. But guess who else does repaints? Mastermind Creations. So I don't know what to tell you other than the consistency of level of quality and character choices, which is another big thing. Also, connectivity that Mastermind Creations has been speaking to the IDW lover and the G1 lover. Boom. And those are two powerful fan communities. Generation Toy has been speaking to the IDW lover and then just people that like cool looking robots that are Transformers. That's not the same pocket. So I really think that for the future going forward, and I'm not sure what their future is, I hope that they are around. I hope that they are successful. But I think consistency of product in terms of quality and consistency of lore they are pulling from in terms of what is inspiring their releases. But if nothing else, that Warbotron thing was a special moment, and if you were around during then, you remember the excitement. So, to Warbotron, I say thank you to Generation Toy, whoever they want to call themselves these days, for giving me one of the most exciting memories of third party in my entire collecting history. And I wish you the best. And with that, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, until next time, take care.